Hmm.
We've seen a lot of experimental genre mixtures this year, but most of them just couldn't pull it off. It seemed like we were just stuck in this phase of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. With mixed results like Destiny, I was starting to get a little depressed with the possibility that this would just become the norm. Well, looks like we found something that stuck. It's just that it took a small indie team to do it, so here's Minimum. Minimum tries to mix arena shooter gameplay with MOBAs, because I guess everything has to be a MOBA these days. And with Minecraft-esque visuals to boot, because I guess everything has to have that too. Let me just start by saying that I am terrible with MOBAs. No matter what I try, I just can't get into the genre. I've been meaning to get into RTS games for a while now, so maybe it'll happen sometime soon. I don't know. Oh right, I was talking about Minimum. Well, Minimum, I think, is a good gateway drug for someone like me, since it doesn't have any of those RTS elements. Basically, there are two Titans, each with their own team accompanying them. Nobody controls the Titans. It's up to the smaller players to take down turrets, walls, and other players trying to obstruct their team's Titan. Once your Titan gets to the enemy home base, you win. Plus, you've got creeps to grind for experience, so it's kinda like Titanfall, except there's only 2 AI Titans instead of 1 for each player. It sounds a lot like a MOBA, and it kind of is, but there's none of that twitchy RTS gameplay that I'm so terrible at. Instead, it's a fun, third-person, shooty multiplayer game, kinda like Loadout. So that's great. It makes for a nice alternative for people like me who are absolutely no good at LoL or Dota. One thing that took me a while to get used to is how insanely powerful melee weapons are. The weapons are well balanced, don't get me wrong, but it's weird to see a sword become viable in this manner. A guy with a katana can take on a guy with a gun if he approaches him very carefully, and the maps are designed well enough to allow for that kind of creative thinking that goes into that. Of course, there are a few caveats. The menus are anything but intuitive, and unlocking weapons is a pretty slow and confusing process. You can purchase anything at any order at the same price, so it's still fair and balanced, but it still takes a while to get used to. That, and unfortunately, Minimum just isn't optimized too well. Perhaps it's just me and my computer, but there were quite a few weird visual hiccups, and the game took over a minute to close. Often, it would just freeze, which is never a fun experience. It feels like it's still in early access. But, with all that said, Minimum is still great fun. It integrates many MOBA traits into its FPS gameplay pretty darn seamlessly. Plus, it's only $10, so players who are looking for an interesting experience on the cheap are definitely going to get their money's worth.